Magfos, #1 remedy for cramping, menstrual cramping, muscle cramping, migraine headaches or headaches in general, especially when you put it in hot water. Put it in hot water, 8 to 10 tabs, stir it in the water, sip it back, and you're good to go. So Magfos is an amazing remedy. And we have two great products, Leg Cramps and Leg Cramps PM, that we sell gazillions. In fact, we were advertising during the Tour de France in stage 15. If you're following the Tour de France, you might have seen that, which is a pretty big deal. We sponsor the Boston Marathon. Not only seniors cramp up, athletes cramp up. I mean, everybody in the dog is cramping up nowadays, especially when you're on all sorts of different medications and you're not eating right, you're not drinking right, or you're over exercising. I mean, there's so many variables that can cause cramping. And Magfos is a great solution for that. In fact, I've had a lot of people say, you know what, I was using regular magnesium and I was still cramping, and the minute I added Magfos, it made all the difference. So even though I think Magfos will do it by itself, I tell people, look, if they're on magnesium already of whatever sort, just have them add Magfos. It'll be just that much more effective. Because again, it all comes down to results. This remedy is also one for people that crave sugar. I mean, everybody nowadays craves sugar. If you ever get that bloating feeling after a certain type of meal, you might want to consider Magfos. But it's definitely best known for pain and cramping. It's kind of like the biochemic aspirin in a sense. So for any sharpshooting pain, Magfos is the key remedy. Okay, so if you got headaches or migraines or any type of muscle twitching or sore muscles, you want to definitely consider Magfos as a key remedy. So medicine, I mean, there's, the little red box there. I mean, there's a lot of medications out there that can actually cause cramping. No history of any contraindications. It's a very safe product that's super effective. I mean, it's probably one of the top selling tissue salts is Magfos because it's so effective and so gentle that people just love it. Natmur is actually homeopathically prepared salt, and it's the water balancer. So people that retain water or don't retain enough water, some people don't retain enough water, they're actually dehydrated no matter how much they drink. So it determines what the moisture in your cell is. So it's kind of important. I should have mentioned some of these before. Okay, so there's some clinical stuff that I have some clinical stuff here that I've been collecting for all sorts of different remedies and stuff like that. So it talks about Natmur, for example, from a clinical settings. People that frequently overindulge in alcohol, even though I do like number 11 a little bit better when it comes to liver support. Constipation, people have very dry stools, anal fissures, cold sores, hay fever, herpes eruption, chicken pox. I mean, all these things, Natmur, I mean, it's been one of the remedies being used clinically for some of those conditions and some of the different various textbooks that I've gone through. So, but it's a key one for the production of hydrochloric acid. So people that are low in hydrochloric acid. I mean, most people that take tablets to reduce acid, most people don't have too much acid. There's an imbalance going on. So, last thing you want to do is actually reduce the acid in your stomach because you want to break down things properly so you can absorb them properly. And you do need a certain amount of salt in your body. Like people are always freaked out about salt. But if you're eating natural foods, whole foods, it's very rare you're going to have a sugar or a salt problem because most of those natural foods won't have excessive amounts of either of those. It's only when foods are packaged and preserved with sugar or salt that you can get potential problems. Because without enough salt in your body, you will not be able to get out of bed. And there's a key thing there where it says a 1 to 3% hydration, like decrease in hydration, can cause a difference of 8 to 10% in speed and strength. I mean, that's the difference between losing and winning a race or an event, because that's a huge difference in power and speed when you're dehydrated just a little bit. I mean, nothing can put somebody out of a competition faster. Like imagine the Tour de France. Those guys get dehydrated, they're toast. They're out of there, right? So that's why they're constantly drinking. Hyperacidic remedies, so acid neutralizer. A key remedy that I always recommend for people post-workout. Okay, so after the workout, I definitely recommend Natfos because it reduces excessive lactic uric acid buildup. In fact, my favorite combination of Natfos for gout-type symptoms is combining Natfos with black cherry concentrate. I love the Bernard Jensen black cherry concentrate, that thick syrupy stuff. I mean, it tastes super good. It's also super alkalizing. When I was competing in natural bodybuilding, that was a huge product I used. Black cherry concentrate in all my protein drinks, Nat Phos, just to help reduce excess acidity. When it comes to cracking in the joints, I mean, some people have really cracky joints. Sometimes it's an alignment issue. It could be a muscular imbalance issue. Let's keep going. So we're talking about the osteomyelitis. This lady that was training here actually had a clicky knee as she was going down in her squat. I just had to do a slight adjustment on her knee alignment and her clicking went away. So sometimes muscular imbalances can make a huge difference in regards to problems with clicking joints. But when it comes to excessive uric acid buildup, lactic acid buildup, you want to take Nat Phos for sure. It's a great remedy after, for example, like Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, you go to a wedding, you're eating way more than you should, you're drinking more than you should, you're eating desserts till the cows come home, and you just feel like totally toast the evening or the next morning. Take Nat Phos, because a lot of times it's just, that excessive acid buildup from all those foods that you normally don't eat, the excessive alcohol and sugars and desserts. It's just a great remedy just to help buffer that a bit post events, whatever that may be. Okay, so I mean, everybody knows what causes acid. I mean, lack of sleep. Most people don't sleep enough. Over exercise, overtraining. People that are worried about all sorts of stuff. Overworking. I mean, people minimize the effects of stress in their body. It's huge how much stress can actually affect your body. So Nat Phos is really key because most people nowadays are sugar addicts. It's not hard to. It's hard not to eat sugar because it's in practically everything that we eat and consume. Clinically, gout's definitely a key one. They talked about gallbladder, liver dysfunction. Gallstones is one of the remedies they use for Nat Phos. Heartburn, of course, ulcers. I mean, those are any arthritis, any type of arthritis, which is hyperacidic base for sure. You want to always consider Nat Phos for sure. Here's another thing I tell people too is, get people to buy the pH test strips and actually have them test their urine pH. What's really cool about doing that is you can see how dramatically certain foods and activities affect your pH level in the body. Like, for example, cold water swimming, for some reason, it seems like super alkalizing. And when you obviously have a major green smoothies or whatever you eat, you can it's kind of like, if you don't know what affects you, you don't know how to change things. So the nice thing about having people use pH test strips, it just gives them an idea of how dramatically certain foods can actually affect the body. Once you're aware of something, that's when you actually realize, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that food affected me this much. Maybe I should eat it less or not eat it at all, or make it twice a week instead of 10 times a week. So it's just, again, it's all about awareness when it comes to people and their diets. Nat Sulf, this is the key liver remedy. Alcohol nowadays is like the accepted drug. It's highly overused, and it's not healthy for them. I mean, of course, there's always those articles that come out and say how healthy red wine is, stuff like that. But anything in excess is not going to be healthy for you. This is the key remedy when it comes to the biochemic detox program. The first remedy they always recommend is Nat Sulf, because Nat Sulf releases water from the cells, so it can release toxins from the cells. It's kind of like when you get a really deep massage. If you've ever had a really deep massage and you go pee right after your massage, the urine color is like super dark because it's just releasing all these toxins through this massage, and it's all coming out of your system. So Nat Sulf is a key remedy for that. In fact, it's a great remedy to take when you go to hot countries, because a lot of times when you go to hot countries, sometimes you can get too high of a concentration of water in your blood. So Nat Sulf is a really great remedy when you're traveling in hot countries, just to maintain that kind of balance in that sense. In regards to some of the clinical uses, they had it also for gallstones in combination with Nat Phos, urine retention, hangovers, of course, with Nat Phos is a key one because it's, you're dealing with wine there. It talks about cellulite. This is interesting, in combination with Nat Mur. They've used that clinically for that. wheezing cough. It's also known for flu, so especially in combination with Ferrum Phos. So yeah, and so that's also a pretty key remedy that way. So think about that. But the key one that a lot of people use it for is for releasing toxins and releasing water from the cells if you retain a lot of water. And in combination with Mag Phos, it is actually a great remedy for migraine headaches. So Mag Phos in hot water, so 10 tablets in a half a cup of hot water, drink the Mag Phos, and then take Nat Sulph. Because Nat Sulph, the fact that it releases toxins and water from the cells sometimes can release pressure in the cells, which can contribute to your headache too. Okay, so that's one thing that you want to consider. Silica is the biochemic surgeon. And this is actually the hair, skin, and nail remedy. I mean, most women use silica for their nails, their hair, and their skin. So you combine that with tissue salt number 1 and 2 and number 12. It's an amazing combination for super amazing nails. Like the picture on the screen there with those nails, I mean, those are like my wife's nails, probably like even better than that. You know, especially after 4 months of using Calc Fluor and Calc Phos, she's just totally blown away how nice her nails look. Here's a funny one with the silica too, excessive perspiration. So offensive perspiration. I had a lady come here with her husband. Now they came over because her husband had gout. So of course I recommended Nat Phos, I recommended black cherry concentrate. We even went in our kitchen and showed them how to make a green smoothie, and, you know, because that's really alkalizing. I don't know how it came up, but she mentioned that she had profuse sweating. She was about probably in her early 60s, and she had profuse sweating. She's had it for years. She's tried all sorts of remedies and all sorts of medications, and nothing seems to help. So I thought, interesting. So profuse sweating is an indication of silica. Now, 2 questions I asked her. I said, do you have any sensitivity to light or sound? And she goes, oh, I can't stand loud sounds, and I always have to wear my sunglasses no matter where I'm heading out. So that was a strong indication for silica. So I thought, okay, interesting. So then I asked her about, do you have any, like if you exert yourself, do you flush easily and stuff like that? She goes, yeah. You know, it's like it's almost like she's embarrassed. She said, it's so red. So I got her on Ferrum Phos, and I got her on silica. Now even here's me. I'm thinking like, this lady's had this for 2 years, profuse sweating. She's gone to doctors. She's tried all sorts of stuff. And here I am giving this simple tissue salt called silica and then Ferrum Phos. Anyway, I saw her 4 days later, and she said the next day, she started taking it that evening, she goes, the next day she had no sweats in the morning. Now she just keeps it in her purse, and she just takes them every day. And this is about 1.5 years ago now, and it hasn't returned. So, I mean, even I'm blown away sometimes how simple a solution can be. But, you know, but again, it comes back to that brick analogy where, you know, maybe it's just that little brick layer of silica wasn't there in adequate proportions to help in regards to making things work that needed to work, but she hasn't had a sweat problem since. So I was actually totally blown away with that particular remedy. So again, like people that have sensitivities to light or noise, or they're irritable, silica is a key remedy. I mean, again, hair, skin, and nails, and any type of things that you want to ripen or drain. So for example, boils or acne or pimples, you want to drain them, you want to use silica. If you want to help heal it over, then you want to go to tissue salt number 3, Calc Sulph, okay? So silica is just a really great remedy, and it brings to form. They even talk about people that have had, you know, deep slivers and stuff like that. So silica brings things to the surface. That's why they call it the biochemic surgeon. What else they got here clinically? Abscesses and boils, chronic discharging wounds, splinters, foreign bodies. The one thing that has come up, people ask me, what if I got an artificial hip or artificial knee or artificial this or pacemaker? There's no history of silica ever extracting something like that, even though, you know, it does come up in the literature as something to be aware of. I don't think there's ever been a case that I've ever seen or read to this point where something like that is actually being discharged. But when it comes to small things, small foreign matters, splinters, and of course, fractures, osteoporosis, silica in combination with, again, tissue salt number 1 and 2 is important for bone. Now, you got to remember with strong bones, or to get strong bones, you can't just take supplements for strong bones. You need to actually do something physical. The best thing you can do is actually weight-bearing exercise, like strength type training. And it's funny how a lot of people are actually super afraid to do strength training exercise, when in actual fact, weight training is probably the safest sport out there. Like, more people get injured playing soccer or basketball, you name it, any other sport, because of the random movements, while weightlifting is actually very controlled and very systematic in its approach. So the injury rate is actually very, very low. So to get strong bones, the best thing you can do is weight-bearing exercise. And it's unfortunate as we get older, like when people get over their 50s, you know, a lot of people are afraid to train, but most of the people I train are over 50. And they're so happy because they just, when you start feeling stronger, you can do better things. I mean, one of the biggest problems older people have when they get even older is they can't get themselves off the toilet. And that basically is a squat exercise. So if you can squat, you'll be able to get off the toilet, no problem. But it's amazing how people are afraid of that. So if you ever consider building up your bones, consider strength training. It's the best thing you could do. Biochemical phosphates, one of my favorite products, because it's got the 5 phosphates in it. So the way to remember what's in the formula is remember my grade 7 rhyme, which is 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Number 10. So it's tissue salt 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And here's the cool thing about that product. So when you're stressed, you deplete yourself. Calc phos is important because it's the most abundant cell salt for overall support in the body. It's got tissue salt number 4. It reduces inflammation. It's an oxygen carrier. When you're under stress, you have an inflammatory response. It's got number 6, caliphos, for mental focus. When you're stressed, you can't focus or think straight. It's got number 8, magphos, to relax your muscles. A lot of times when we're under stress, you know, our shoulders are up to our ears, so we're super stressed that way. And then it's got tissue salt number 10, which is the biochemical antacid. When you're under stress, you have a hyperacidic response too. Biochemical phosphates is a great formula if you're feeling overwhelmed, overtired, overstressed. There's no relationship between mental fatigue and physical fatigue. People always think they're related, but they're not. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you get home from work and you're super tired. You've had a terrible, hard, mentally just exhausting day. And you plop yourself on the couch and you say, that's it. I'm stuck on this couch for the rest of the day. I'm not moving. Now you get a phone call. It's one of your friends saying that one of your best friends had a car accident and they're in the hospital. And it's not looking good. Well, no matter how tired you think you were, you're in your car and heading to the hospital. Better scenario, a happy scenario, you get a phone call from the lottery office. You just won $10 million. No matter how tired you thought you were, you're out and about running around like a crazy person because you just won $10 million. So I always tell people, unless you're throwing up or cramping up, you're not overdoing it physically because your body won't let you do things too physical. It'll shut you down. Why can't you sprint longer than 10 seconds? Because you'll cramp up or you'll throw up. Whatever comes first, but it's going to shut you down. It won't let you sprint longer than that because that's the maximum your body can do. So I always tell people, look, if you're mentally fatigued, the best thing you can do is actually something physical. Now get out there and do something physical. So when I got home and I thought I was tired, my kids would say, Dad, let's go rollerblading. I'd be out there rollerblading because I knew I had lots of left in the tank. And that's the best thing to actually clear your head. Now, Bio-12, people always ask me, well, why don't I just take Bio-12? Doesn't it just cover everything versus taking any individual ones? So here's the difference between taking Bio-12 and the individual cell salts. Bio-12 is kind of like that general fertilizer. So let's say I'm growing a field of crops and I'm using a general fertilizer. And the crops are growing really good. I'm just using my general fertilizer. But then at the end of the season, when the flowers are supposed to come out, if I'm still deficient in a certain component, they might not flower at the last stage. So for example, if you're taking the Bio12 or Bioplasma in the US, that's the same product with a different name in the US, you could actually, let's say you're taking Bio12, things are going well, because most people are deficient at some level. So you're putting it in your water bottle, a cap full, about 20 tablets, shaking it up, you're drinking throughout the day, but you're still cramping up. Well, then you emphasize it with MagPhos, because you might be a little deficient in MagPhos, or you maybe over-exercise, so you depleted that a little bit further. Or you want to emphasize it with NatPhos if you got some gout symptoms, or you emphasize it with Calc Fluor if you sprained your ankle or you broke a bone. Take Ferrophos if you got excessive menstruation, or you got a bit of a low-grade fever. So so the Bio12 is a great general support product, but you always want to emphasize with the individual cell salt when you still have specific symptoms. Okay, so that's important to distinguish between that. But most people nowadays need Bio12 because, like I say, without Bio12 as a foundation, the whole point is getting, when the new cells come back, because basically who you are today, what you look like today, how much energy you have today is determined by the last 6 to 9 months of your daily activities. So what you ate, your exercise, your stress levels, you name it, all kind of stuff combined. In fact, I personally learned a ton of stuff just over this last thing since this whole COVID thing. I did a lot of traveling for my work. So this is the first time in my life that I haven't traveled for about 5 months, like on an airplane. So first time ever since I was a teenager that I haven't traveled. And when you're doing a lot of traveling, I thought, I'm pretty healthy. I take care of myself and I eat pretty good. And when I travel, I work out a little bit in the gym and here and there. Being home for 5 months and actually sleeping consistently and eating consistently and working out consistently, it has made a huge difference. I've actually gained, in the last 5 months, I've gained about 15 pounds. Now, not of fat, but because I've been working out regularly and systematically, I went to a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and I had a suit made last year for another wedding, and it fit great back then. And then a year later, because I've gotten bigger and stronger, like everything is super tight. I have to get my pants, the thigh taken out a little bit because my thighs were a little too thick for the pant leg. Proper rest and all that kind of stuff can do. And even me, like I thought I was doing pretty good, but first time in my life that I've actually been home for a consistent amount of time, and it actually makes a huge difference. So the next few slides, these are all slides that are actually available on the H2U online training program. And the way to access our online training program is just go to highlands.ca/H2U. So H like Henry, 2, the number 2, and U for university. So H2U. And you can actually self-register. So you can actually download a PDF of all these slides for quick references. So these are all the key remedies for digestion. So it tells you which remedy, the kind of key things to look for. So it's kind of like a quick and dirty cheat sheet. So that it's neat because it's got ones for digestion. The next one covers all the key remedies for colds and flu and associated symptoms. The next one has got stuff for sports, sprains, pre-event nervousness. And the next one is for skin support. Here's the other cool thing. I don't know if I mentioned it in this session or the last session, because sometimes I get my sessions mixed up, but in regards to our cell salts, the reason they're so quick dissolving, because we have that self-melt technology, is because we don't use a magnesium stearate. So I think I mentioned it this time, but I mentioned it just in case I missed it, because it's a really important component. That's why our tablets are soft and they melt so easily, because we don't use a magnesium stearate coating on our tablets for the tissue salts, okay? So that makes a huge difference. These are all the key ones for, like I say, for skin support. I got the little no smoking sign. If you want to get good skin, don't smoke. Website resource, of course, Highlands, you got all the information on the products there. The National Center of Homeopathy actually has got a lot of really great articles there. So the National Center of Homeopathy is a great resource when it comes to websites. When it comes to Google, I always tell people, look, when you Google anything, make sure what the source of it is, because there is a lot of misinformation on the internet. Anything that's slightly controversial, it'll be censored anyway, which is not necessarily good, because sometimes that's the truth. So just be aware when you are Googling stuff that your source information is a legitimate source, right? Because either that or at least check out 5 different sources so you're making sure there's some commonality between the information. Some of my favorite books. My favorite book is probably Natural Healing with Cell Salts. That's got to be my favorite reference book, The Natural Healing with Cell Salts. It's a super good reference book by ailments. It's just super user friendly. Like Natural Healing with Cell. I think it's a different cover now. I think it's a different color now, but it's the same name, Natural Healing with Cell Salts, by Skye Weintraub. She's a naturopathic doctor. I think she was out of Seattle. And then the Biochemical Handbook, of course, is one of the staple books that's been around forever. Pretty user-friendly book. If you want to get into some really good details, the 12 tissue salts of Schuster goes into real depth of the tissue salts. It's actually a great book. There's Facial Diagnostics. I don't think you'll be able to get those books. Those are some special books. Yeah, but there is one called Facial Diagnostics of Cell Salt Deficiencies by David Card. He's actually a practitioner that owns a bunch of stores in Utah. Yeah, so that's actually a good book too when it comes to, because you can do there's some really neat facial analysis stuff out there that you can tell by, the dark circles underneath people's eyes if they're missing ferrum phos, and or the complexion of their skin. There's all sorts of really neat indications for different remedies based on tissue salts. Yeah, so those are some of my favorite references anyway. So what I'll do is, if anybody has any questions, I'll open up for questions now. I know there's a ton of information and it's probably a little bit over time as it is. Somebody did ask, do you have to dissolve it in water? Can you just dissolve it in the mouth? Of course you can. The easiest way to take it is just to put it in your mouth. I mean, it'll just dissolve instantaneously. That's the beauty of our tablets without the magnesium stearate. They just dissolve, go through mucous membranes, don't have to go through your digestion and intestinal tract. So absorption is just, like with Mag-Phos, for example, if you get a cramp, you take Mag-Phos and absorbs through your mucous membranes. I mean, it works like super fast. I mean, I've seen it work at bodybuilding competitions where bodybuilders who dieted down to the max, they haven't drank much a few days before competition because they're trying to dehydrate. So the chance of cramping is super high because they're also doing something physical. I've seen Mag-Phos work miracles immediately when they're taking it directly. So the reason I tell people to put it in their water bottle, it's just a good habit to get into because most people are deficient, especially when you're taking the Bio-12 or ferrum phos and Mag-Phos while you're exercising. Taking them straight is ultimately the best way. It gets it into your system super fast if you're dealing with specific symptoms. But the nice thing about taking it in your water is most people don't drink enough water, or they drink too much water. You got to kind of balance that out. And if you're drinking reverse osmosis water, you better be taking some minerals and replenishing, because reverse osmosis water will deplete your system because it has no minerals in it. Yeah, so you can definitely take them direct. I mean, that's the ultimate way to take them is direct. I just like using that in the water too. Is the Bio-12 best place to start for kids, and how long should you take them for? When it comes to kids specifically, I actually like tissue salt number 2 and tissue salt number 6 actually as my favorite for kids, because number 2 for growing pains and growing and development, and CaliPhos for mental focus, which is most kids, they're all over the place. So those are my 2 favorites. If the kid's really active, I'll definitely throw Bio-12 in there too. Really active kids need that overall support. Like nutrition for kids is just as important as anybody else. Like sometimes the things we feed our kids, especially if they're active, it's kind of scary. So you want to make sure that your kids are getting adequate nutrition because they're growing. Like my daughter did advanced gymnastics for about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. And a super intense sport. She could climb a rope with just her hands, like all the way to the gym ceiling. That was really hard on her system, right? So, but we still typically focus on CaliPhos, and with her cramping, stuff like that, because she was so active, we definitely emphasize Mag-Phos in there too. So those are the 3 I typically like. Bio-12, like I say, is a great general blanket if they're super active, but I still like to emphasize CaliPhos, especially if they're going through growing pains. So, and that can happen between 6 and 12, and sometimes in their later teenage years too. We're here to support you, so whatever we can do to support you, we'll help you out, okay? So just to let you know that. So again, check out our online training program. If you haven't already, it's an awesome program. It's highlands.ca/H2U. It's got 4 levels. You get a certificate after level 1. You get a full certificate after level after doing all 4 levels. But the cool thing about it is you learn lots of information that's very consumer friendly. So when you learn it, you can actually use it with your customers. So it's not information that you learn, you're gonna, how do I translate that? There's actually lines and information that you can actually use specifically for your customers. Okay, because that's what we're here for. We're trying to break homeopathy down so it's not so mysterious, and so you can actually use it, and hopefully you can experience it. Okay, thanks for coming.